Good afternoon, and welcome to another day of Issues in Focus with Shibiki Vivos. And I must say, it's a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. Just cool, calm, and wonderful. And I trust that all of you had a splendid day today. So, one of the things, as usual, I'm going to ask you guys to do, for those of you who will be viewing, don't ever forget to share this broadcast because there might be someone else who will be touched by what we have to present here today. I just want to let you know we are streaming live on YouTube, on my page, Shibiki Vivals, and on the page Issues in Focus. So, for those of you who want to look at the program undisturbed, you can feel free to go to YouTube. For those of you who you want to go back and just to check out the programs that were done, please don't forget to like the page Issues in Focus with Shibiki Vivals, and I'll get to see your comments, and at the same time we'll have a wonderful interaction here this afternoon. Remember, all the members of our panel, they are ready to answer your questions, so don't feel free to ask your questions at any point in time during the show, during the program, and we'll see how best we can address it. So before I introduce our special guest for today, let me pray for all of you wonderful people who have been supporting me over the past months. Let us pray. Great God and eternal Father, we are so thankful that we can be here yet another day. I pray for all the members of the audience in a special way, Lord. Many of them, they have their own issues, they have their own complications and challenges in life that they're dealing with. But I know, Lord, you are God. And even as today they look at this program, may hearts be touched, may lives be transformed, and may we be able to approach communication in a better manner so that conflicts will be avoided. So bless the audience in a special way, and may your Holy Spirit take full control of them. Through Jesus Christ we pray. Amen. All right, good. So I just want to say shout out, good afternoon to Teresa Duncan, John Eugene, Jennifer DeClow, and Sister Geraldine McCalmon. If you make a comment on YouTube, don't be afraid. We are going to see your comment. And so I will definitely know that you are viewing with us here this afternoon. And for all of you who are viewing, take the time out right now. Share it on your page. Share it on your page. There is somebody else whose life will be touched by this broadcast. Perfect. So I'm going to Jennifer and if you make a comment on YouTube, don't be afraid. All right, so I will definitely know that you're with us here this afternoon. So Dua, could you please mute your microphone? Right now. Share it on your. All right, great. So there we go. So we're on, and you are seeing our audience for today's program. So I'm going to ask them to briefly introduce themselves. As a matter of fact, I think let me take the privilege of introducing them this afternoon. So most of you are seeing the names at the bottom, and I'm going to start one by one. There are some very energetic young people, and I know that they are set here for this afternoon. So from the start, we have sitting right next to me, we have the Tittles, and we have Kadik Tittle. He is all the way from Antigua, and Kezia Tittle. I was just about to mention your maiden name, Kezia, all the way from St. Lucia, and I want to let the audience know that these individuals, they're married couple. They have been married for 4 days now. 4 days. And I know it's not easy for persons to disturb your honeymoon to come on a program, but I am happy that they have consented to be here. Everything was just well orchestrated. I didn't want to disturb Kadik, but it so happened that today I saw him, and I'm like, hey, you know what? Maybe it might be a great thing to have this newlywed here on the program. I'm so happy. Yes, RJ, good to see you. So welcome, Kadik, and welcome, Kizia. And they're here to share some wealth of information that they have gathered over the past period of dating, courtship, and marriage now. Then we have Okolo Bino, and before I forget, a very pertinent information about these individuals. They have, well, we are all graduates of the University of the Southern Caribbean, well, prospective, and Kadik would have completed a BA in theology, and Kezia would have completed her BA in psychology. Great. And so all of us just are waiting that November month where officially we will have our certificates in our hands. So welcome, Kadik and Kizia once again. Next up, we have Okola Bino, a renowned singer in Guyana. For those of you who know her, she has been singing from since a little girl, actively involved in ministry whenever there are crusades around. And every program, you will see Okola singing. And Okola, I know you wouldn't escape this afternoon. As usual, whenever I have singers, and then I have singers, I have the titles too. And so I am going to put both of these individuals on the spot, and they're just going to do a verse of a song from me. So you will hear their melodious voices even as we get prepared for this one. Because remember, we are all in the act of communication, and you guys will communicate via song today. So talk with each other, decide on your song. Okola brainstorm on it. In the meantime, Okola is from Guyana, from the wonderful village of Ithaca on the west bank of Berbice. Welcome, Okola, to Issues in Focus today. I know today's your very, well, your second day actually, so welcome. Next up, we have Duel Youth, and he has been married for approximately 2 or 3 years. Why? I hope I'm not getting it wrong. Duel, remind me, please.
3.5 years.
3.5. Oh my goodness, my friend will kill me, yeah? Because I'm supposed to remember that. So they've been married for 3.5 years. I know December coming will be their wow, 4 years of marriage. And together the union would have produced one beautiful little baby girl, Diara. And I am so blessed to have Duel on the program today. Duel is he is a worker, an employee at the oh, I am
Wildlife Commission.
yes, thank you, Duel. I don't know what is happening to me, why these dates and this information is slipping me, but I'm so happy to have you, Duel, on the program. Next up, I have Daniel Nathan, and he is one of I should say, um, uh, when it comes to support for this program, Daniel is always there. I remember one time he was in the audience talking, and I said, you know what, Daniel, I'm going to just add you to the stream. And Daniel was added to the stream. He had no information about the questions, he knew nothing in terms of what would have been asked. And he sat there and he was able to answer question. A young man with a wealth of knowledge. And Daniel, I'm so happy to have you on the program, active AY leader, active church member, and I'm happy to have you here today. So welcome, Daniel. Next up, I have Miss Tanette Johnson. For those of you who are keeping abreast with the program on Issues in Focus, she was here when we were dealing with the topic youths and how they're addressing the issue while stumbling. And she was able to ably present that. Tanette would have completed, of course, the University of the Southern Caribbean a few years back. And she is active participation in, of course, in church. And she is married and has been married for a year and change. I got that right? A year and change. And for those of you who live in Guyana, you will understand when we say a year and change. And I'm so happy to welcome you, Ms. Johnson, to our platform here today. Last but not least, we have Miss Anessa Monroe, another singer. It just so happened that we have quite a few singers in our program here today. And Anessa, I know the last time you came on Issues in Focus, we had a setting whereby you were asked to sing a piece of a song, and today will be no difference. So while the other two singers are up there, they're getting themselves together in terms of what piece song they're singing, seeing that we're dealing with the issue of communication, we will hear from them. So that's my panelists for today. I'm so happy to have all of you. So let me go to my audience now. I want to say good afternoon to Teresa Duncan, to Regina Ramsey, Sister Carol Adams. Yes, good afternoon to all of you. And I want to encourage all of you viewing at this point in time just to remember to share it, whether it's a YouTube link or whether it's the link on Facebook. Just share it on your page so that somebody can be blessed today. All right, so Tittles, Okola Bino, we are ready. As you give us just a short verse of a song, something Let's hear you. So we're gonna start with a newlywed couple. They have been married for 4 days now, and so over to you, the titles.
I know you said Okolo would sing, but we too. Oh gosh, we missed that. It was us too. Okay. Lord, lift us up where we belong. Let the eagles fly on the mountains high, high. Lord, lift us up where we belong. Far from the world we know, where the clear winds blow.
That is what I'm saying. When you know you're a singer, you're always a singer. Yeah, you can be put on the spot to do a verse or a verse and a chorus, and you all. So Cole, I know your camera is off at this point in time, but I would like to hear your melodious voice also as we get started with this wonderful topic that people are eagerly waiting to hear address here. Okolo Bino.
Please permit me to keep my camera off. It, I'm kind of nervous when it comes to singing in front of people, so here it goes. Love in any language, straight from the heart, pulls us all together, never apart. And once we learn to speak it, all the world will hear. Love in any language, fluently spoken here.
That's it. Thank you, Okolo, very much. So you can put on your camera so people will know who sang, right? I know your aunt is listening in. Hi, Mandy, welcome. Hi, Deslane and Odesia, welcome this afternoon. Anessa, over to you. Anessa, we're taking your piece of the song. Your microphone is muted. Okay. I guess she's having some technical internet issues there. But nevertheless, we are going to hear from her. So in the meantime, let's get straight into it, guys. And so we I mean, it might be a cliche question, but I think it's imperative for us to
I'm
address it.
sorry.
All right, great. Anessa, over to you.
I have to sing?
Yes, my dear. A portion of a song, any song.
Can you can you put somebody else in one split minute and then I'll just think of a song?
All right, we'll talk in the minute, and just after the first question, we're gonna take you. Great. So the audience, she was not hearing before, so that's why she's now brainstorming on that. All right, great. So the question is, how would we define communication in your own words? Maybe just a sentence. Let me just get that from you, and then we're gonna go straight into the other questions. What would your definition of communication be? All right, because
Basically, sending or receiving, the process of sending or receiving information.
all right, good. So we have sending and receiving of information. Titles.
You talk, I listen to understand. I talk, you listen to understand. That's communication.
Interesting. I love that. All right, Okolo.
Communication is the act of transmitting a message. It includes there must be a receiver and a transmitter.
All right, there must be a receiver and a transmitter. So we having to the audience, we having some key terms coming out here, right? So, Okola, it's okay now to put on your camera because I know the singing aspect is over, right? I just want to put that out there.
Yes,
Um,
permit me in a few.
so
In a few, I will.
okay, certainly. Thank you. Anessa.
Okay, so for me, communication is relationship. And you might be wondering why I'm saying that. But without communication, there is no relationship.
Hmm.
So communication is relationship.
Interesting. And that's the first one that is coming to the table. I've never heard it in putting that, but when you really study it, it makes absolutely good sense. Daniel. Daniel Nathan?
Yeah, you hear me?
Yes.
So I think communication is the process by where information is being transmitted. It could be via body language, words, through text, letter, and the processing at the end, how well that information is being received.
Thank you. Thank you. And Duel, what about you?
All right. Well, what I'll say is that communication is basically sending and receiving, as Portis would have mentioned before, sending and receiving a message and ensuring that it's understood in the way that you wanted it to be understood.
All right, great. And to our audience, sometimes I wonder because communication has become an issue that many of us we suffer from or we perhaps don't know how to do it. And yet, so when we hear these things, it sounds so cliche. It's like, yeah, I know that. I know it's a receiver and a sender. But then, yet, still, in order to put it into practice, many times we have that issue. So, at this point in time, as we break from the question, and I'm going to take Anessa Monroe, we're going to hear her voice. I don't forget things like that. And then we are going to go straight into the other aspect of the questioning. And by the way, your sister's here supporting you. And all she's saying, hi, Nessie, smiles.
Okay. Honestly I didn't think of any song, but okay. Uh Shabiki, honestly, can you come back to me? I'll sing.
All
I'll
right.
sing before the program is over. I did
All
not
right.
think of anything.
All right, you'll
I
just send me
promise you.
you
I
send me a
promise
private
you.
message when you're ready, right? Send me a
Okay,
private
thank you.
message. You're most welcome. And today, because we're communicating right now, I'm gonna take your information well said because it means that we will have better product of what you are going to sing for us today. Please note at any point in time you can book these singers. Don't forget they're here for bookings also. All right, great. So on that note, the other question is there a formula for good communication? And I'm going to take this response from just about 3 persons in the on the panel because I know we have a lot of questions in audience. Remember, don't forget to send your questions if you have them because we're going to go deeper, deeper, and deeper into this communication issue, knowing that we have 3 married persons on the panel and we have 3 single persons on the panel. So the question is there a basic formula for good communication? And then 3 other persons will tell me if there are any characteristics of a good communicator. So the first question is there a basic formula for good communication? And the other 3 persons will tell me what are the signs and characteristics of a good communicator. So anybody can begin at this point in time.
Okay, I guess we'll go. All right. Formulas that we would say for good communication are active listening. We know what that entails. Listening to understand and not to respond. We said humble spirit as well, because as you are listening, something may be said that you don't agree with or turns you off, but you need to be humble enough to still listen and to understand what the person is saying before responding. That means, the cutting off of the person and all that kind of thing. As soon as they say something that you don't like, that doesn't happen. So you humble yourself. And we said for the final one, an appropriate verbal and non-verbal expression or expressions, appropriate verbal, non-verbal expressions, because even when you're responding in your tone, your body language, you can come across defensive or whatnot. You want to still remain in a way or communicate in a way to still be tactful, so that whatever you're saying can be understood. So again, active listening, humble spirit, and appropriate verbal and non-verbal expressions would be our formula for good communication.
Thank you very much. And audience, I want you to take note of this. After 4 days of married, and when a man already has the hour and the we in place, it says something, eh? Because it's not, as you know, we're dealing with communication. It's not easy for persons to maintain that, but to subtract I right away and then to put we and all. People had a long journey with that. Boy, I must commend you guys. You guys have been training well for this we hour, but good, great job. All right, great. So I'm going to take two other responses. Same question.
I would want to stick
I
in.
agree.
Go ahead,
Sorry.
Sonnet. Go ahead, sis.
I agree with the titles, and the formula includes listening and understanding. And what he mentioned as well would include listening beyond words. So you're not only just listening, you need to be cued in to the person's emotional state as well and responses. So it's not just, listening, understanding, but listen beyond words to the feelings that are probably being communicated to you, not just the words
I
only.
love that. Oh, I love that so much. Because sometimes I wish some people can really understand that, especially when we're dealing with men. You know, I can't be generic on this response, but
Oh,
for
wow.
me, sometimes you just wish that even though I'm saying something, you just wish that they can read beyond that top surface of my words and they can just go really and truly understand what I'm saying, look at my gestures and everything, and really say, hey, I don't think that word, what you just said to me, you're not fine. Something is wrong. And you feel so good when that person could tap in. Yeah, man. So we had two married persons on that question here. Excellent so far. So I'm going to take the one single lady that was attempting that question. So go right ahead, Okolo.
So I was about to stick in empathy there because with understanding comes empathy, like you were saying before. So if you're not able to put yourself in the person's situation and try to see how that person would feel, then there will be something wrong there. So empathy is one of the formulas there.
Oh, thank you very much. And to our viewing audience, remember, if you have for any one of the question and you feel as if you want to give your responses, you want to give a comment, feel free to do so. I noticed Regina just asked me a question if there's a Zoom login. There isn't any Zoom login. However, if any member of the audience, you just want to just come on the stream for a moment just to answer a question or to give your side, feel free to do so. I can put the invite, well, as a matter of fact, the link into the chat section, and you will be able to give your comment in that light. So I don't know. So Regina, if you want to do that, if you want to give a comment publicly, you want to speak a comment, feel free to connect, and here is the link for you to do so. And I'm going to just add you to the stream temporary. You give your response, and that goes for anybody. You give your response, and then I will remove you from the stream. All right, great. So the second aspect of the other three persons will have to answer. That question should be, what are the signs and characteristics of a good communicator? What are the signs? Let me just edit it. What are the signs and characteristics of a good communicator? And I'm going to ask the remaining three persons, Anessa, Daniel, and Phil, to address that question.
I think many times we strive to be
Unless I'm hearing you very low, I don't know what's the reason for that. Maybe you just need to turn up your device, your turn up the sound on your device.
There was a call that came in, so I think I'm gonna leave and then I'm gonna come back.
Okay, great, no problem. All right, good. Daniel.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay, so I was saying that many times we strive to be good communicators and not effective communicators. And the reason why I'm saying this is because one of the characteristics of an effective communicator is that um, you're not just only saying things like the couple would have said. You are listening to what this person is saying, and you are communicating information in such a way that the receiver can understand. So I'm going to just give a little scenario very quickly. You you're going out and you're not going to tell the other person, for example, a person that you're in a relationship with, that you're going somewhere. You do not expect the person to know that. I was listening to you when you were saying that you wish if guys could read under our like our silent communications and so on. I believe that you should say things if there is something you need to say, whatever it is. So one of the characteristics that I would comment on is that an effective communicator should say things in such a way that the receiver could understand and communicate information in such a way that the person is following clearly where you're at, what is it that you're doing, and what time you'll return. That's an example. I'm not saying that, you understand me, I'm just giving an example
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Vanessa. Duel.
All right. So some signs and characteristics of a good communicator that I believe what I would say one is being able to pay attention while during the conversation or while communicating. Um, as the titles would have mentioned, being an active listener, right? So even though you might be there with the person, you're not like on your phone or watching TV or your mind might be elsewhere, but you're actually in there and focusing on what is happening, right? That is one characteristic I would say. Another one is being honest and being open and being clear, all right? And so I'll actually piggyback on what Anessa was referring to in terms of, when you mentioned that guys should actually be able to pick up on this hidden communication stuff, right? While that might be so, right, it would be helpful if,
Yeah.
as much as possible, you get a clear understanding of where you're coming from, not only in terms of your words, but also your emotions, right? So if both, and that's for both parties, right? Not just female alone, but male and female, um, or even in any other friendship or whatever the case might be. Whenever you're communicating, try to be as clear as possible as it relates to what you're saying, why you're saying it, if it's something that affects you, how it's affecting you, and that kind of thing. Also, um, I had one other, and it's slipping me right now. So maybe Danielle could respond, and if I remember it, I'll come in later.
Certainly.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I think the question I was previously asked, I think some of the qualities that were mentioned there very much complement this ones. But when you're looking for a good communicator, yes, there are characteristics and there are gonna be things that you're looking for. So things that you're looking for a person that who is clear and concise and to the point. So you don't want somebody that is beating around the bush, right? So you just straight up with that, right? You want somebody who is confident about what they're saying. They're not slurred and unsure about what they're saying. They know what they're about, right? And you must have open-mindedness to listen to that other person, to what they have to say as well. And like the Tito said, some people do not listen to understand, but they just listen to respond, and that is how we get arguments sometimes, right? And at the same time as well, we must be able to, another thing is respect. We must agree to disagree. So regardless if our points may not coincide with each other, we must be able to have um that relationship maintained, and we must meet on some basis to agree on something, right? Because you don't want unanswered questions at the end of the day. So with these things, we must care about what the person is saying. We must be clear and concise and have respect for them as well when communicating.
Thank you so much. So well said by the members of the panelists. And even before I get into the other question, I just want to bring up some comments made by our audience. Uh, so Teresa Duncan said this. There is indeed a breakdown in communication, especially in marriage. That's why we have so many divorces. We have got to do a lot of prayer that is communicating with God. Thank you for sharing that comment, Teresa. And we're going to come in and get a little deeper into this communication as it relates to the relationship aspect. And Denisia Morris,
If I may add before you
yes,
go
go
forward,
ahead.
if I may add before you go forward. Now, what we fail to realize that is listening is an art, right? Now, I can be hearing you, but yet I'm not understanding what you're saying because my thoughts are not with you. While if you're listening, like Duell said, it's to understand what the person is saying. Now, there are some things that cause us to have problems because some of us, we tend to defend even before the person continues. We tend to defend, we want to analyze, we want to immediate assure the person. Wherein we're not supposed to be doing those things, we're supposed to be listening first, understanding second, then we have empathy, which comes after, then we can analyze things and go, as we go on. So I just wanted to say that.
Well said. Thank you very much, Ms. Winder, for adding that. And so we're gonna bring this other point by Denise. She said, I think it's not only about the receiver. I'm hearing about listening and understanding and such, but what about communicating your feelings and emotions clearly? Denise, girl, you on point. We have a question that will address that directly because it's so pertinent in relationship, and I think this is the part that brings a lot of problems and issues in relationships. So thank you for sharing that. I am thinking, let me see. I'm just scrolling up to ensure that I didn't miss any very vital comment made by, okay. Oh, this one here, I know somebody else had a comment. Sister Gweldine said this. One of the basic formula for good communication is to respect each other's views. And you see that one there? You see that one there? This is like a problem child, and let's just deliberate a bit about this. Maybe just take 2 or 3 responses on this before I go on to the question, because I think it's very pertinent for us to address this particular respecting each other's views. I'm seeing Danielle smiling big. Danielle, go right ahead.
Yeah, I would have mentioned it just now. One of the characteristics, right? Like I said, we must agree to disagree with one another, and we must respect that everyone has this freedom of speech and they have a right to express how they're feeling. So whether there may be a situation, right, and both of us have different views on it, right? Sometimes our view may not sit well with each other. So at the end of the day, I must respect how you see this, and you have to respect how I see something the same way. Because sometimes when we're communicating, we tend to let our views override the next person's view, and we want our own to stand out in that room, whereas we must be able to have that mutual connection when communicating. I think mutualism is something very important in communication, and it's not a one-way street. It must be able to have to go 2 ways for it to work.
Well said. Thank you.
I think when we're communicating to win, that is the kind of attitude that we have. We're not communicating because there's a difference on the table where we're not seeing eye to eye with a situation. Then you take a position where I'm communicating to win. So I'm not going at all costs. I'm not going to let whatever I'm saying. I'm not going to be humble enough to respect your views, because at the end of the day, I have to win this debate. You're not communicating because you want to solve an issue. You want to come to a conclusion that is nice and friendly. You want to win. So if you communicate with that attitude in mind, you're going to be doing all of these things and would not respect the other person's view.
Thank you, Anessa. Thank you. We're just going to take one more comment if anybody else have any comment on this before we continue. All right, so comment here, and you know, like sometimes in the while doing issues in focus, it's just like dawn on me. You know, I sometimes look at my panelists and it's easy to determine who wants to go first, who many times who is still thinking, and who love the subject. Like they just, it's like they want to answer it, but then they have some bit of reservation. So it's like this program has taught me a lot. Of course I'm still not there yet, because communication, I think we learn every day as it relates to communication. But I always enjoy that moment when I look at your faces and I can determine, like, hey, let me just call and let me just pick on this particular person. And sometimes what I willfully do at times is that I will look at their faces and know that they ain't ready prepared to answer, but I want to know what is in their mind first before they have to ponder too long. And so when sometimes you randomly call on people like that, you get the realness out of them before, so there is no sugarcoating. It just comes out raw, because that's the first thing I'm thinking about, right? So, you know, in communication, you know, we learn these little tips, and I'm so happy for that I am learning too. And as Karen DeMatteis, I'm so happy to have you here. And Karen said, I didn't even read this comment before. Every day I'm learning about it. Well, thank you. And my dear friend Zion Ramsey said this. By the way, Zion, I need you on my program sometime, so please just take note of that. I think in order to maintain the respect in communication, we sometimes need to leave the situation and come back to it when both persons' emotions are intact. And that particular comment will come in hand in hand with one of the questions that we have to address here this afternoon. And so I want to know, how does communication really lead to understanding? How does communication lead to understanding? I'm not gonna pick on people right now, so go right ahead. You can ask. My time is coming.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go. All right, so how communication leads to understanding. As we discuss this question, we realize that sometimes we can be in a situation where we assume what people are feeling, we assume what people are thinking, and we just go on that. But I've learned, especially with Kezia, that sometimes I can't assume that she's feeling like that or she's thinking that way. So when she communicates to me, it's totally different from what I thought it was when she tells me exactly what she was thinking or feeling. And I'm just like, but I did not see it in that way at all. So I think it eliminates assumptions and it brings about the reality of situations. So that's how it leads to that level of understanding. It just totally takes away from you thinking that, okay, I did this, she acted this way, so then probably she's feeling this way because of this and whatnot. It just eliminates assumptions altogether and brings about the reality of the situation.
Thank you very much, Kadi. I have to take Casey on this one too.
Okay. I was also thinking that in our relationship, we have the dynamic of two different cultures as well. So in certain things that certain practices that he may have that I may not be familiar with, sometimes I consider, I think we had this one situation where he had this certain practice and I was like, but wait, what? You'll actually okay with that? You'll do that? And I found myself kind of getting a little defensive and stuff like that, because I'm like, well, I thought we were on the same page. You know, so sometimes I guess that too, you feel like you always want to be on that same page with your partner. So then when simple stuff like that come up, when you realize, but wait, this is actually a big difference, and it's like, wow. But then, you know, we would have talked it out and I understood his background a little more. And I would have gotten context from that. So I think in that aspect as well. That is where communicating and expressing um, your thoughts and um, that which surrounds it. It helps you really understand your partner in a better way.
And if we're talking about the same situation, yeah. If we're talking about that same situation, to this day, I don't think we are on the same page with it. As in, like, she doesn't agree with my point of view. She just respected it. And for me, the thing is, I was not fighting to be right or anything like that. So then what I did was just I just left this alone, and that doesn't have to. I don't have to fight for you to grab my point of view. My point of view wasn't wrong, you know. It's just that she didn't grow up with that type of background. So then she just didn't accept it based on how she was raised and stuff like that. So then what I had to do was just humble myself and just be like, all right, cool. There's no issue. I grew up with it being a norm, but I can put it aside. It's nothing for me to drop.
And I
Right. So and again, it leads to a very level of understanding and eliminates assumptions altogether and brings about reality of the matter.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your responses on that. Miss Teresa Duncan, thank you for your question there. But I just want us to know that even when we have members of the panelists, everybody will answer differently. People sometimes think before answering a question and all of that. So whether persons have questions beforehand or on spot, generally speaking, people respond differently as it relates to their thinking process and everything. But thank you for your concern, for your comment rather, and that is something that is always done on this program. All right, great. So I'm gonna go to take two more responses on that. How does communication leads to understanding?
So good communication or effective communication would lead to understanding, because as mentioned before, there are many times we may end up assuming certain things or assume that somebody is feeling a certain way, and when you actually approach them and communicate with them, then you know it's totally off. Like for example, a story I came across about this man and his wife. They've been married for a couple of years, and he felt the need to show appreciation to her so that she can know that he really loves her and stuff. So he comes home from work so excited to show his wife how much he loves her. And she's in the kitchen, and he just comes in and lifts her up, removes her from what she's doing in the kitchen, and just spin her around and kisses her. And he did not get the response he expected, because she just turned around and looked at him like, what is wrong with you? And he's like, he didn't say anything. He's like, he can't understand what is going on. And multiple times in the weeks to follow, he is just trying to show his wife how much he appreciates her, and he's just keeps being met with hostility. So at one point, he just sat down and he thinks like, I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. I'm kissing her, I'm trying to hug her, and I'm just not getting the response I want. So he approached her and he was like, honey, I've been trying to show you my appreciation and my love, and every time I do that, you just keep shooting me down. She was like, you really want me to tell you the answer? You really want to know how I feel? He like think about it. He was like, well, in order for him to know or understand where she's coming from or why she's behaving this way, he will have to really listen to what she has to say. And he was like, yes. And she was like, honey, you came in from work. I was busy trying to get dinner done in the kitchen, and you just come and move me off of my vibe, off my rotation of doing what I was doing. Instead, what you could have done was just say good afternoon, roll up your sleeves, and just come and assist me in the kitchen, help me wash the dishes or something. You just come and distract me from my program and what I was doing and expect that I'm going to be all lovey-dovey and nice to you. No. So that is just an example of how
That came
proper
after weeks.
communication would lead to better understanding.
Tanette, before you go, that came after many weeks or something like that?
Like probably 2 weeks.
Woo.
Because he is thinking in his mind, I'm communicating love to this woman and she is not understanding. Like, I love you. I'm showing you that I love you and I appreciate you, and you just keep throwing, throwing my emotions to the door, throwing it away, and I don't understand what is going on. But yeah, it's important for us to not just we show love, yes, but make sure that it's received, or it's being received in the right way, or maybe you're not showing it. Everybody receives love differently. So you need to make sure that you are giving love and showing love the way the person would like to receive it.
Thank you for that.
If I should comment on that, that you were saying just now about receiving love and so on. It is quite true that people communicate and receive love differently. So it's important, it's very vital that in the process of being understood, you must communicate in a language that the person understands. So you must communicate in a way that the person can relate to. If the person is more, if they're more on the side of a particular thing in life, use those things as examples in order to explain certain situations and all of that so that they can relate to those things and then understand what is it that you're communicating. If this person is into science, for example, use science and communicate with them. Okay, tell them that you see how the world is round and closed. That's how eternal my love is for you. An example, I'm just saying, right? I'm just oh my God, please don't laugh. But but I'm just saying you must communicate love in a way that the person can relate and understand, and so it's not just about you being you understanding what you're saying, but the person understanding what you're saying, and so you must do it in a language that they can relate to and understand.
Thank you so much, Anessa. I just want to say welcome to Zion. Zion, if you were there, please, you can put your microphone on and go right ahead and give your comment, or I don't know which one of the questions you want to address.
Okay, so can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
So I would like to address the same question: how does communication lead to understanding? Now, I'm married for 7 years, but however, communication has been the issue for my relationship, and this is because growing up, communication wasn't something I was taught. So before we even look at it in a relationship, we need to look at each other's background. Because if you are not allowed to communicate and communicate effectively and freely, when you enter a relationship, it becomes difficult because you're not that person to open up, as people would say, and say your feelings, explain how you feel. So if that is not something that was taught to you, when you go into a relationship, it's not that you don't want to say it, but then you think about it. Also, how does it lead to understanding? Now, like the panelist was talking about the situation with the husband and wife. Now, he was just looking at how he wants to do it. You also need to look how that person will feel. Sometimes you plan to do something for your spouse, but then when you actually see that spouse, you need to change because sometimes the atmosphere that you expect is not there. So sometimes we have to do on-spot changes to help a situation, to calm a situation, to change it around. That's just my take. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, Zion. Thank you very much for just to share that. She's been married for 7 years, one of my college friends, and I'm so happy that you can join us today. And words of wisdom, and yeah, that's a very pertinent point there in terms of our background and everything. And I guess all of those things as we date, and that's why it's important not just to rush into marriage. So when you go through the process with the person in terms of dating and they get to know you, or what we would term as the courtship period and everything, you get to know about individuals, their family background, how they communicate, why they might be silent when they're supposed to speak out, and why they're speaking out when they're supposed to be silent. So we learn all of those things in the process. So I'm just going to take one more response on that as we move on.
All right. So how does communication lead to understanding? I would say communication, or the aim of communication, is actually to be understood. All right. And the way and how communication can actually lead to understanding is when it's done properly, or when it's done effectively. Right. Because, for instance, in many situations, sometimes persons have assumptions about how people act, or why people do what they do or say what they say, right? And so by communicating, we are actually able to clear up some misunderstandings, right? We're able to clear up some assumptions that persons might have, right, about a particular situation, right? And so when someone can clearly say what they mean, and so, for instance, when their tone of voice matches what exactly they want to say, their other body language, it matches what they say, then that is when the other party is able to understand where you are coming from, right? And so if you would have a disagreement, for instance, right, and the other party is able to share their point of view in a way that you would understand, all right, that is where, well, understanding comes.
Thank you very much, Duel. And I just want to put two comments from the audience up. We have, let me see. Oh, and I think Ms. Collins would have, Ms. Deborah would have mentioned this as it relates to the point Tonette was making. Sometimes we have to get our partner in the right mood in order to get them to truly listen to you, right? That is vital. And then I love Miss Adams' comment here. She said it has to do, no, not this comment here, not the family origin comment I want to put up. There's another comment that she made. Oh, this is the one here. Communication is a skill that must be practiced regularly if it is to be perfected. If you're listening and you're thinking that you have arrived as it relates to communication, nah, you have not arrived. I don't think if any one of us will ever arrive there, because we're dealing with different people. And so we have to even relearn some of the things we would have learned as it relates to who we're dealing with, and even as it relates to different particular situation. All right, no problem. Go right ahead. The link is there, and if there's anybody else who wants to come in at any point in time and make a comment, feel free to do so. I am just going to paste the link, get a link again in the chat. I just received a message that somebody wants to come in to make a comment. Feel free to do so. We will appreciate it very much. So the question that I want each and every one of our panelists to address is this one here, and I think this is the crux of the matter as it relates to why we have so many issues in our relationship, and one of the main common error made. So the question that I want to ask us is this: as it relates to how important is listening. I know Okola would have mentioned a bit about it, but I want us to really and truly elaborate on this listening, because sometimes I myself sometimes have that issue as it relates to listening. Tonette, I don't know if that happens to you in your relationship, where you want to finish a statement first. And I think one of the members of the panelists made mention of that. So before it's finished, it's like, wait, I know what you're coming with. Okola, that sounds like you. I know what you're coming with. Hold up right there, right? So we're gonna explore this very important concept: how important is listening in a relationship? And anyone can begin.
If I may begin, like I mentioned in the chat just now, there are different forms of verbal communication. Now, the first one is conversational, and in terms of that, it's social and friendly for everyday activities. Then we have seeking, where we're persuading, blaming, or directing. We have reflective, where we're speculating, pondering, and wondering. And we have confrontational, where we're facing problems directly with commitment for their solution. Now, in terms of listening, if you are going to come at seeking or reflecting, then you wouldn't get me to listen. Now, Becky knows me, and I can see she's smiling. She knows me very well. If you're going to come to play the blame game or the directing game or speculating game, then you won't have me to listen to you. Now, if you're going to come to me with either confrontational, where you want to come to a solution of a problem, then you're going to have my undivided attention. But otherwise than that, if we are coming with our own aim in mind, then we will find it very hard for persons to listen to us. So we need to know where we're coming from when it comes to listening
Thank
to
you, Kolo.
individuals.
Yes, Vanessa, go ahead. I look at microphone and all of that,
I
how
think
you touch your microphone. So you know when people lean on and then they put on their microphone. Go right ahead.
I think it's very important to listen in conversations and in exchanges in relationship. The thing is, it shows the other person that they are valued. What they're saying is so valuable to you that you would give a listening ear. I would like to comment also on what Okola was saying. If the person comes to you with a judgmental and whatever tone it is, let's just say that person is angry and they're accusing you of something. Now, if you are going to react in that particular way, where you're going to take up the person head to head in a communication battle of a situation that is at hand, you're going to make the situation even bigger. And so I would like to now deviate from that and say that maybe like the married couple, you listen and someone would have posted this as a comment, that is, you wait until you are emotionally stable to handle whatever situation it is. So you listen to the individual, they can be on the top of their voice, they're abusing, they're accusing you, they're saying all sort of things, but you're listening. And because communication requires you to be humble, you listen to what they're saying, and then when we are both very at a very balanced emotional, in a very balanced emotional state, we then discuss the issue. So we have people listening. I'm going to speak, you're going to speak, you listen to me, and then I think the exchange is going to be much better. So we must have know when it is that we can respond. So it's important to listen even when somebody is accusing you and they're abusing at the top of their voice and so on. If you're going to comment and going to respond to them when they are that hot and you're getting hot and the person is getting hotter, everybody's just getting hot, then it would not finish. You would break up the house and everything inside of there. So you wait until you are both emotionally balanced and stable so that you can be able to speak respectfully to each other and listen to each other so that you can come to a conclusion that is amicable.
Well said. And as you know, if you want,
All right.
yeah, go ahead.
Before you go on,
Eh,
Vicky, I don't want, yes, I don't want anybody to misunderstand what I'm saying. My thing is this: we are all different human beings. The way you might react to a situation, it wouldn't be the same way that I would react to that situation. Now, my thing is, when somebody's arguing with me, I would walk. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't listen. Yeah, I would listen, but I would keep walking. So when you're finished ranting and raging and carrying on, and you're ready to speak like a polite human being, you can come and we'll have a discussion. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying we shouldn't listen, but for me, I would keep my distance. I'll keep walking, and when you're ready to speak properly and in a proper tone, you can come to me when you finish ranting and raging.
Nice one.
I know
all right.
I'm really laughing this because this topic is so Okola. Yes, Duel.
Yeah, I just want to make a distinction here between listening and hearing. All right, because I mean, when we hear this topic of communication, it's something that we really need to make a difference between, because sometimes when we're communicating, we hear what the person is saying, but we didn't really listen to them. And so what I mean by that is that we hear in terms of, yes, the words that escape from their lips, it passed through our ears, and we got that, but it didn't really register with us in our brain to really understand what they would have said, right? And so really listening, not just being there to hear what is said, but actually having that connect with your brain, and internalizing it, right? That is when you're actually able to understand. And sometimes, I think one person said that in the comments, that we have to focus on what is said beyond the words, right? And so when we listen, while it is important to try to be clear as possible as the one who is speaking, or sending the message, right? Even the one who is supposed to be receiving the message, should be able to say, yes, I would have been able to understand what you said, right? And sometimes we can simply do this by simply asking for a clarification. Maybe if somebody said something, you say, is this what you really meant to say? Is this what you're saying? So that you understand what exactly that person is saying.
Thank you very much.
If I should just comment a little, it sort of come to the place where we must have proper listening ethics. Like someone was saying earlier, you can't be listening to somebody and you're on your phone and you're looking at television and all of that. For example, let's just take a child and the child come to you to tell you something. You're busy doing whatever it is, you're not even saying. And I think that is how children are taught to not communicate properly. You're not listening to what the child is saying. He's trying to communicate something to you. Maybe help the child out with his homework or whatever it is. You have your own stuff. Maybe you can address the child in such a way. Remember, that child is not an adult. Address the child in such a way that he understands that maybe at the moment I'm going to talk to you or whatever it is. But no, you're just there doing whatever you're doing. You're not even listening to the child. And children, they tend to pick up on these things, and then after a while your child stops communicating with you and you want to know why. Because you don't have proper listening ethics. You're not responding, you're not nodding, you're not showing interest in the conversation at hand. So these are all things that we should be doing when we're listening to people. Show that you're involved in what is happening. Don't be doing your own thing. Try to keep nice eye connection with individual. You're looking in their eyes, they're looking in your eyes. The eyes, you're missing so much when you're not looking into the person's eyes, because the eyes, it's also communicating some of the things that this person is saying and some of the things that they're not even saying. So when you look in their eyes, you can then question some of these things that you are seeing that they are not saying, and you get to understand even deeper about the conversation or whatever it is you're discussing at hand. So my thing is that you must have proper listening ethics.
Thank you so much. I just want to say welcome to one of our audience, a member of the audience. Hi, Marvin. Marvin is from Jamaica. I met him while I was in Canada in 2018. Marvin, let me hear your comment or what you have to say. And I don't know if it's on the question at hand or whichever question. Go right ahead.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I will share on the question at hand, but also on the previous question, as I was trying to get in for quite a while. No, I would use the titles, for example, as Kezia shared earlier about the difference in terms of language and the fact that they're from two different countries. Now, when you deal with communication, because I struggle with that, and one of your viewers shared earlier that the fact that she was not grown up in an environment that supports and mentor that, it becomes a challenge as you grow. I have that experience as well. But so I'm doing an intense study right now on the topic of communication. And I also want to say I must thank you, Shibiki, for this program. I have been tuning in for quite a while. Now, communication is like the language we speak. And I might speak English and I'm communicating with my wife who speaks Spanish. When I speak English, I expect my wife to understand. But the truth of the matter is that she don't understand English because her mother tongue is Spanish. Uh, it's the same thing with listening. I expect her to listen and to understand when I speak, but I'm not speaking in the language that she can understand. And so we have to first be deliberate in understanding our spouse or the person that we are quoting. The love language or the language that they speak in terms of communication. And that is the only way that we are going to reach the person. That is the way that the person is going to be able to understand the information that we are relating to them. And so for me, I start to become deliberate in seeking to understand the language that my wife speaks, so that when I communicate with her, I'm not just communicating on the point of view of how I feel or what I want to relate or to impart to her, but I have to be deliberate in communicating in such a way that when I speak, she will understand. And when I speak, I can expect her to listen because I'm communicating in a way that she is comfortable, that she is familiar with. And so that's what I want to share at the moment. Thank you very much for having me.
You're most welcome, Marvin. It was a pleasure having you on the program today. And before I take another comment, I remember, Kadik, I don't know, but for me, when I met all those Jamaicans in Canada, I mean, we met so many different persons from different countries, but I never knew that in terms of me, I mean, I'm from Guyana, but I never knew our culture. It was so different in terms of our language and everything. So it's like sometimes literally these Jamaicans communicating with you and you're like, what is that? Or sometimes I am using certain slangs we use that we expect like they to come for them to that is common among us around the Caribbean here, even at us like USC. We will say certain things that we know that everybody understands us. So when I'm even using those same things there, the Jamaicans are watching me like, huh? And I in my mind I'm saying, Shibiki, can you marry a Jamaican? You have to do so much as it relates to communication, as it relates to learning. It's like you practically have to learn a new language, a new form of communication as it relates to them. But I'm just using that for example, and that imagine all of us are speaking English. Much less if all of us not utilizing the communication tools or the listening skills that we should utilize. How many conflicts we may have. But thank you, Marvin, for bringing back that wonderful memory there. So I'm going to take Danielle at this point in time.
So I think listening is a very key thing in any relationship, and that is how we build more relationship, when we learn to listen to one another. And listening goes beyond just hearing the words that somebody's speaking. It's also paying attention to their thoughts, their behaviors, and observing their feelings as well. So as long as, and listening is actually seeing through their eyes the perspective from where they're coming from, rather not just pushing in what we think as well. So once as we have our own thoughts and we could see from there, we could have an easier way out. So I think like that, once we observe those key things, as in the way they behave, body language, and so forth, we is very important. And like the example I think was Tonica made. No, sorry, the other young lady made. You can't be on your phone and do other things while somebody's talking to you, whereas you're just hearing, but you're not listening, right? So there's a difference between hearing and listening. So when we actually listening, we're actually processing that information, and our eyes actually are our ears as well, because we are more visual beings, so we're able to pick up more. Because instead of more words coming out, you can actually tell more from their body how it is and how they're acting, and so you could tell how things are going as well.
Thank you, Danielle. We have anybody else have anything to add on this question? Add to this question?
Yes, I didn't.
Go right ahead, Kissy.
Just a little bit, nothing much, but for me, it's so important for me to listen. And I have realized that there are times when I am not a good listener. And it's important for us to really make a deliberate effort to work at being better communicators, especially in marriage, in relationship, in friendships, in everything. But marriages especially, it's important that we really listen, because there was a time I was working on something with my husband, and he said something. I heard, but I was not listening, and I answered, and it just basically caused a misunderstanding, because he was like, "But Tonette, I said A and B. I particularly said that," and I'm like, "No, you didn't say A and B. You said B." But I wasn't listening effectively and paying attention. So I heard what I heard. And that is one of the things that could cause misunderstandings a lot. So we really need to tune in and be really and recognize your faults when it comes to communication. Another thing as well that I will keep coming back to, listen beyond words. So right now, my husband is not here with me. So most of the times when we communicate, it's via WhatsApp or video call. So, for example, this morning he asked me, "Hey baby, how you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm okay." And at the back of my mind, I know I have a lot of stuff going on, but I just said I'm okay. And he was like, you're not okay. You're not 100%. What's really going on?" That is an example. Listen beyond words. Many times we might just say, "I don't really feel like talking about how I feel," or so I'll just cover it off and say I'm doing okay. But persons who really care about you would observe. If they're really good communicators, they would observe, "Hey, she's not okay. I need to really get to the bottom of this." You're not trying to mind people business, but let people know, show people that you care. So listening actively and observing is important, very, very important in a relationship.
Thank you so much. Yes, Kizzy, go right ahead.
Right.
Shibiki,
What I
it's
wanted
a
to
true thing
say
that
was,
she's saying as well, and even in relation.
Or just a moment, Daniel. So we will take Kizzy's comment and then we're gonna come back to you. Kizzy's voice is her voice is so soft. So sometimes we miss her. So go right ahead, Kizzy.
what I wanted to add was that I think listening in relationships also encourages emotional vulnerability, which is very important in a relationship. When Tadiq listens to me, I know that he is listening because he gives me his undivided attention. I feel like he's listening both internally and externally. It gives me that safe and comfortable feeling um, in our relationship, and with him, it creates that atmosphere for me that I feel safe in expressing things. I never feel like I have to hold back or be walking on eggshells in what I express, because he continues to give me that environment where I can feel that deep sense of emotional vulnerability, which I think is very important in relationships.
Thank you for sharing that, Kizzy. Kari, kudos to you.
Yeah.
All right, great. It's good when you can have your friends, especially when friends become lovers eventually. I know we guys can have this kind of open discussion with them. And if before we go any further, I want to say welcome to all the persons who are viewing on YouTube also. I know some of you are viewing silently. There is no comment from you, but I know you're there. Just welcome. And for those who I'm seeing in the chat, who would have joined us, we have, let me see, Winfrey Bot. Welcome to you, bro. And we have Princess Liverpool. Hi, Candace. I'm wondering if I missed. Hi, Fran Reynolds. Yes. I hope I didn't miss anybody else at that point in time. But welcome to all of you who are viewing, whether you're viewing on my page, Shibiki Vibe House, or you are viewing on Issues in Focus. All right, great. So I'm just gonna take 2 comments from the audience, and then I'm gonna go straight into promotion. It's very, very important. Hi, Moses. So because Moses is the very first time I'm seeing you on the program, maybe you have been viewing, but you have never publicly commented. And I'm just gonna put Moses' comment on stream just before I do this very important promotion. So Moses Rodrigue would have said this. This panel discussion is a timely one, especially as there are quite a number of issues within relationships today. Communication is indeed of paramount importance in relationships in relation to the efficient day-to-day partnership experience. Each partner must initially acknowledge and comprehend that his or her partner has a different personality than him or her. Very true. This is not understood, then the goal of effective communication will not be attained. Partners must also not be ignorant to the existence. I am not certain if there was a continuation of your comment, but thank you, Rodrigue, for sharing that very, very profound comment there. And that's why I always say it's important. If you don't know your personality type, I did a program on that sometime in May. If you don't know your personality type, I'm talking about the 16 personality type, we will end up in a lot of problems with as it relates to communication, as it relates to so many different issues. Hi, Curtis. I'm happy that you could have joined us here from the BVI. And I'm going to put a comment here from John. I like when the young people comment. You know, if the lack of communication is due to a busy schedule, oh, this is a question. There's some ways we can get past this, especially in a long distance relationship. Very profound, bro. I'm coming back to your comment just after this promotion because we have persons in long distance relationship here, and I know we're going to address this particular issue. All right, so here is the promotion. For those of you, some of you who are viewing may be aware of Camp Goshen. This is a campsite on, that's in Guyana, by the way. We have a campsite on the Essequibo coast, there. But anyway, so there is usually every year during the month of August, we go there for a 10-day camp, juniors and seniors. And this year, what we're doing is that we're having a virtual camp style, and it will be on Zoom and on the conference Facebook page. That's the Guyana Conference Facebook page. I am sharing this here because I want, whether you're Seventh-day Adventist or not, all of you are invited because it's an opportunity for us to have a wonderful experience. You will see more in terms of promotion. There will be videos out, there will be flyers out very soon, because this camp is slated for the 21st to the 23rd, which is next weekend. It starts Friday evening. One of the things, we are raising finances for camp development. And for those of you who love young people, it will be a perfect opportunity for you to give finances just to help to develop the campsite. Well, you know that we can't really go on camp right now, but there's several things to be done there. So, but we're going to have this wonderful church service starting Friday evening, on Saturday, and we're going to conclude on Sunday. Saturday night, we have a grand social. Everything will be on Zoom. And one of the things I'm asking persons to do is to bake bread, because what is happening, we will be putting on the cameras. You'll be eating bread in front of everyone, because for those individuals who have been at this camp, when you leave the campsite, you are sick and tired of bread. Until now, a day like today, I can't really eat bread and not butter because of this camp. So we are trying to keep the custom alive and the culture alive, to have bread and not butter, bread and jam, bread and anything, but just ensure that your bread is there. So whether it be for dinner or breakfast, we just put it on. We have normal roll call time, 5 o'clock in the morning. It will be fantastic. And the good thing about it, we are bringing our youth directors from the different, who would have served years back then. Some of them are in their 70s, their 80s right now, still alive. And you are going to see and hear from them. So it's a fun activity. And remember, this invitation is for everyone. You will see the promotion, and you will see the flyer. As Sister Geraldine says, she helped to bake bread at camp. Very nice. So all are invited. Just book your weekend. Don't go anywhere. It doesn't matter you're Adventist or not. You are invited for this wonderful event. And trust me, it will be life-changing as we take nature and make it something wonderful. Great. So I just wanted to put that out there, and I just want to say welcome to Janessa, Andrew Weeks. Good to see you, Andrew. And hi, Miss Lynch. And well, Sister Geraldine, you may not know, but she used to bake bread at camp. And yes, all of them contributed to that. So, right, good. So let's get back to our communication there. And one of the things, so Tonette, I'm gonna put up John Eugene's comment there. Very, very vital for us. And for those of you who are viewing and you have not shared this on your Facebook page as yet, or share this YouTube link to someone, you might be doing a grave injustice to someone who may be having these issues, these communication issues, and and they will want it to be addressed. Yes, Troy, I know exactly that is you. Good. So John's question is, if the lack of communication is due to a busy schedule, what are some ways we can get past this, especially in a long distance relationship? Especially in a long distance relationship.
Well,
I've learned something. I've learned something about time and schedule and all this. The thing is, we don't have time. We have to make the time for our relationship. And if we're going to keep saying that because of my busy schedule, I cannot do this with you and I cannot do that with you, then you're going to make the person feel that they are not of great importance to you. So we really don't have time. We have school, we have work, we have things that we have to do. We have a lot of other things to do other than sit there and talk to somebody. I'm just using that very loosely. And so we really have to make the time for our relationship in order for it to work. And if we do not make this time, as I said at the beginning of this this conversation, this discussion, communication is relationship. And if you're far apart and you're not communicating, it's already very hard that you're not in physical space, which means that a lot of communication is lost. So some of the things that you might not see, because it's not every time that you'll video call and all of that, but you might still be in discussions. So a lot of the information is lost already. So when you're going to add insult to injury by not finding the time for your relationship, then it's not going to work. It's going to fall apart. So we really have to find the time in all the things, the 1,000 things that we have to do in this world for our relationship. You put that time aside and do not let any other thing interfere it unless very, very necessary.
Well said, Anessa. Thank you so much. So we're going to hear the comments from the others, especially Tonette. You know, you can't run away from this.
Yes, I agree with what the beautiful young lady said there. I can't see her name on the screen, but yes, make the time. That's it. Basically, make the time. There can never be. Yes, it's possible sometimes because of the distance. Sometimes there will be issues in communicating, but there should never be lack of communication, all because it's a long distance relationship. We need to make the time. You and the person you're with, you sit down. You will have time. You make the time to sit down, have a discussion. Say, well, hey, we're busy, but between this time and this time, let's schedule this time for us. That will be our time. We won't be focused on anything. We won't be cooking. We won't be doing anything. This will just be our time. Even if we're going to eat, we're going to eat together. So while we're talking, both of us could be having dinner at the same time. You have to make a deliberate effort, especially if you really love and care about this person. Distance is not going to be an issue. You will make it work. You will make the time. It's that simple. You'll make the time. I don't think there's anything else I can add or subtract from that. You will make the time if you really love that person and you're really interested in that person. You'll make the time. And another thing as well, even there's simple things that you can do. A simple, like have a thing between you two where in the mornings you will wake up to a text, or it depends on the schedule. You will text good morning. Whenever I am available, I'll text you good morning. In between the days, we'll message and say, hey, how you doing? How's your day going? Whatever, whatever. You make it work. You make it work. Some people totally are against long distance relationships. That we all are entitled to our opinions and our choices. But for those of us who are willing to put in the work, it works. You just make it work.
The thing is too that people don't seem to understand that um, when you're going to be communicating, you don't have to spend the entire day doing it. It is what is it that you're saying in that moment? Are you going to say hi for the entire day? Or are you going to take your 1 minute and type a very impacting, emotional, inoculating, what words can I use? Type something that is of essence and that would impact the person on a different level for the entire day until you see them again. No, but you're going to take your precious 1 minute to type hi. How is that effective communication? We're very far apart. You cannot do that. You need to take whatever time you have, use it effectively, and type something of essence that would impact the person on an emotional, social, physical, psychological, all of the levels of their life.
Yeah, it's important. It's important even with the whole long distance thing. Communication has to be on a deep level. That's it. It needs to be deep.
Yep.
It can't be anything on the surface. I see Caddy looks like he wants to speak.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Aha. Oh yeah. All right. From our point of view, let me use our experience, eh? And I want to mesh what Tonet and the young lady would have said there. Last year, for example, when I was canvassing in Canada, right? That was a 4-month period that KZ and I would have been apart. And not only was I canvassing in Canada, but I was leading the team. And so with leading the team, I had to make sure on a daily basis everything was in order. I had to be driving 5 hours a day. There was one particular day I had to be driving like 12 hours. And it was just, the thing is, everybody is big people. I was actually the youngest on my team. So I had to be able to handle and manage the team in a type of way. But every single day, even to this day, now that we're married, I made sure that I did something, and that's what Tonet was saying. Make sure you have something special every single day from since we started to talk in that way. We would have made sure that we do this thing called our daily love, where it's like in a unique way we find to express how much we love each other. So then every day before I would get in the van, because I'm in Canada, she was here in Trinidad, so we have time difference. So then when I'm up, she would be sleeping and all that kind of different thing. So then I had to get up and I had to type a long epistle of love and put in the lyrics and the Shakespeare and all that kind of thing to send. Because I know when she wake up and she see that, she gonna have a grin, and that keeping her until the night when I come in again to talk. Of course it's true, I saying it. And some other days I didn't always send a text. Sometimes I made a video. And I sent a video, and I went on Viva, edited thing, and I put the thing together, love and all them kind of different thing. And to this day, before we go to sleep in that bed, I had to make sure I still give her that daily dose of love and stuff like that. So it's like a thing for us that continues. So what I'm saying is, even though you're communicating now, just a little nugget, and doing all of those things with your long distance relationship, continue it into marriage and stuff like that. It drives the dynamic of the relationship very nicely. So and one more thing I wanted to say was quality over quantity. I think you guys would have alluded to it. You may not be able to speak every single moment of every single day, but when you do, make it something worthwhile. Go deep and have that person smiling and blushing and whatever for like, I don't know, something about women. It's like it's so stimulating to have a deep conversation with a man. I've learned that like when a man can stimulate you mentally, you good.
Yeah.
So just a nugget for guys: don't have surface, wayward conversations. Stimulate a woman's mind. Yeah, they don't want that. stimulate a woman's mind, and that would keep her for longer than you think. You're
And
right.
adding to that, though,
Uh-huh.
I feel like a lot of times we take relationships for granted, and we fail to keep in mind that it takes a lot of work and investment on both of the partners' part. So we tend to put in work and all those other things as priorities. And because we know that, okay, we have this partner right there, we kind of shift that to the side. But relationship needs continuous work and investment in order for it to go somewhere. I just wanted to add in that part.
And I think, oh gosh, I mind this question nice. I think it was last night or night before we were laying down, and I just looked at her and I told Kezia, listen, you are my responsibility and my priority. And I think saying those things and letting your action as a man, coming from a male point of view, speaking to the males, saying those things and letting your actions back it up really assures women. And so I think that men have, both parties have the responsibility, yeah, but for a man, I think it's your responsibility, it's our responsibility to ensure that women feel secured in these areas, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, that they are a priority. So don't find the time, make the time
Happy wife, happy life.
to communicate and whatnot. That's our piece. That question was nice.
Thank you, thank you. And Kadi, I want to hear this. I don't know how long. Well, by God's grace, I hope Issues in Focus really continues. But I want to hear you after 4 years of marriage. You know, after 4 days of marriage. Wow. You know, like as Giselle said, Pops, you know some things, right? This is your friend Giselle's comment here, and Kisia, we all know Giselle, right? So this is after 4 days of marriage. Excellent. You know, when you come out from a juicy courtship, and then it's in from well, dating, you court, then you engage, and now you're married for 4 days now. Excellent thought process. I want to hear that. I'm going to put that in my journal to have a discussion with Kadik and Casey at the titles after 4 years. Because I'm wondering, I'm looking at Duel giving his underneath smile. And Duel, whenever you give that underneath smile, is a good signal, eh? Because Duel is a guy who doesn't smile much, right? Duel, you will be able to tell us different. And I just want to put in this, just that, a bit of a question here to you. Not detail, but I just want to know, they've been talking that after 4 days. Excellent submission. I love that. Kudos to you guys. Keep it up. It will go a far way. But Duel, I want to ask you as another married person. You're the longest married on this panel, almost 4 years now. Have things changed from the beginning of your marriage as it relates to well, maybe if by chance you had those kind of talks or anything in general? Have things changed from the beginning of your marriage to now? That things you were able to talk about and boast about from the beginning, that yeah, I'm gonna keep up with this. Were you able to keep up with everything so far?
No, not been able to keep up with everything, because it's not always smooth sailing, right? But I like Mr. Tittle's energy there. I want to commend him on that. And but just remember that, as I think his wife said, any relationship is work. You have to work to keep it going, right? And even though you might have all of these wonderful thoughts in your head about how things are going to go, about how you want to see your relationship grow day by day, things will happen along the way that will change that. But it's just up to you to continue to keep working, because you know how you want things to go, and even if you face a storm, you have to work together to help to calm it, right? And so, yes, there are times when, yes, you will enter marriage with so many good thoughts in your head, right? So many rosy thoughts, right? But somewhere along the way, there will be a storm. You know, there will be rocky situations that you have to fight through, right? But when those rocky situations come, right? You just have to remember that you're in it for the long haul, right? And as much as possible, even when you have fights, or you know, you might be angry with one another for whatever reason, you know, think back on these little things that you said you will do, right? And when you remember that, and you keep practicing it.
Thank you, Duel. So take the counsel from the oldest married person on the panel here. And I love, no, but seriously, I love you guys. If you guys keep up with that, it will go far away, even though every day it will not be the same. All right, so Zion is here. Zion now become the longest married person. Zion has been married for 7 years. Zion, let me hear your comment, because I know once you join the stream is for. Go right ahead, Zion.
Okay, so I could remember when I first got married. 6 months into it, it was lovey-dovey. It's always like that. But I could remember while doing counseling, I was told that the hardest year are your first 3 years. And trust me, Shabiki, it was the hardest. Because, one, I'm a teacher, my husband is a soldier. Saying that, it comes to the same long distance, because there are days when I guess he comes home, I said, how are you doing? I'm okay. And I really don't know how to deal with that. Sometimes he gone for so long. There is no communication there. I'm here just hoping that he's doing the best. Sometimes he calls, it's just to say, hi, love, I'm okay. So I believe that it's not just the long distance, but then you need to remain focused. You need to understand that at times, there will be days that I don't hear from my spouse. It doesn't mean that I'm busy. It means that I can't make it, but I still love you. So what I do is that when he's here, I cherish the moment that we have together. Even though we have fights, I still cherish that moment. And Shabiki, you know my mouth. Mouth. Right? But I try my best. So, you know, there are days like the couple was saying just now, they have the days of love, right? We have our days like that, but trust me, like Shabiki said, I would like to see you at 10 years after. Once you're still together, once you pass that 3 years, there is nothing separating you. Because that 3 years, you learn to deal with that person. Because like we say in Guyana, come live with me and come see me is two different things, right? When you get upset, there is no more, I'm not calling you, I'm not texting you, I'm going home, I'm not coming. You got to wake up and see that same face every day. Every day. And sometimes it's difficult to deal with women. I know I'm difficult to deal with. I thank God for my husband every day. I know he has all the patience in the world. Right? But once love is there, I believe it works. Once there's genuine love, I should say, love, and there's God within that relationship, it works. Also, you can have, like I would say, a spiritual father, somebody that you look up to in the church. I have somebody like that I will look to. If I have issues, I will go to them. But at the same time, do not look at persons and believe that their marriages are the best if you're going through something. Because the picture you see is not what is there under that surface.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we tend to look up to people like, oh, I love this marriage. I wonder why mine is not going like that. Trust me, they're all problems, but it's just that some people are better at covering it than others. But once love is there, you're good to go.
That's
my take.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, and great marital counsel there. I appreciate it. Even though I'm not married as yet, I listen to my married folks, and I've been learning. I will be learning from Kadi, the titlers, because they're ahead of me, and people like Tonette, who are my friends, and of course, well, Joshana, I know Duel's wife. We're good friends, so it's like I know my counsel days are already here. Must as when I reach there, right? So so the point is there's something that when Zion talk about that she's not the easiest person to deal with. I don't know. There is something about these hot mouth women. They never go for they go for these patient men. So I mean, I've heard so many hot mouth women say the same thing. Oh, thank you God for my husband. He is patient. I am not the one. And Okola, out of you and Zion, I don't know who won the race, because I don't know who won, but one of you guys leading one another. But we women, we have to learn to tame our tongue sometimes, eh? Yes, Kadik, yeah, we know we have to learn to do that, eh? All right, good. I'm gonna go. We have about 2 more questions before we wrap up here. There is this other one. How how do you communicate? And I know we haven't, well, we've been touching on it here and there. Ashiba, welcome to you. Miss Donna, hi, good to see you. And of course, Karen Collins, who's viewing here. Good to see you. And for all of you, those of you, of course, who are viewing on YouTube, welcome to you guys too. So the question is, how do you communicate when you are upset with your partner? I know all of you are either dating, have dated, or of course they married right now on this panel. So everybody has an experience to share as it relates to that. And before I go to that question, John would have just expressed his thanks. You guys did justice to the question asked. Yes. So how do you communicate when you're upset with your partner?
Well, I think this is a very interesting question. This taking back to that text in Proverbs, right? It said it's better for a man to go live up on the rooftop than to live in the house with a quarrelsome woman. Text goes both ways, right? And what it's saying, when you're angry, don't say anything. Just go away into a quiet place and rest until you're ready to go again, right? But I think, when we're upset with each other, we're not gonna listen to one another when we're upset, right? It's just gonna be adding more fuel to the fire. I'm opening my mouth on her, and then she's gonna start opening her mouth big on me, and then it's gonna start causing a whole riffraff in the situation there. So whereas when you're upset with each other, yeah, and you're a calm person, you don't want to talk about it. Just be clear to them. Just say, I don't want to talk about it now. When I'm calm, I'm gonna come back to you about it, because your emotions are all over the place, and this could happen more, especially with women. They could react differently to the situation, whereas it would come to a man, because sometimes a guy, he would start to get physical when he's upset as well. So I think it is very important that we are able to control our emotions even when we're upset, right? And be clear and to say that, hey, I don't want to talk about it now. But you might get some woman who say, no, I want to start it out. No, we got to look at this. No, right? And that is where the respect comes in. You have to respect my views that I don't want to talk about it now, right? And it's like, okay, we're gonna talk about this later. So coming back to all the characteristics that we was talking about, here's where it settles. This is where the dirt settles, right? And all these things come into play, and you have to have empathy, like Okola said. Like, you have to put yourself in the person's situation. This is how he's feeling. He can't talk about this right now, and then I'm gonna come back to it later. And this is the set also. It's the timing when you approach the situation is very important. You're not going to get the best of the person when they're emotionally unstable. So I think it's very much that we observe all these things because
I
remember, communication is not only just talking and listening, but it's also have observing eyes for their feelings and their behaviors as well at the said moment.
Thank you, Daniel.
I was gonna say that not every woman would shoot down at you when you are upset and you are, and they might say, I am the type of person, especially in, let's just say it's a relational type of relationship, a romantic relationship. I cannot speak when I am the silencer. I would just go silent when I am upset. You would not get anything from me. I am not saying anything to you. I am just upset because if I speak, I might just explode on you and you're going to die. That's just it. Because I would get so upset. I would just be quiet for the rest of the conversation. I would not say anything. And I would be too upset to speak. So for me personally, when I am upset, I cannot communicate with anybody. I go in my corner and I cry my eyes out. I cannot speak. I can't speak because I am too angry in that moment to say anything. And if the other person is angry too, it does the same thing to me. I would not be able to speak to them. I don't speak to them. I do not add, as we say in Guyana, we do not add firewood to the fire or fire sticks to the fire by making this person more angry, by by going on that same level and just be quarreling with them and having a back and forth. I say nothing. You're angry. I say nothing. Why are we even talking? We cannot talk. You are angry. I let you express yourself. You vent, you behave, you quarrel, and then I sit there quietly and I leave you alone to behave. And then after, I'm going to respond. But my response. Okay.
Hmm. All right, thanks, Vanessa. Tonette.
I just remembered myself when Danielle spoke, because I think I shared this before. I can't remember, but I know I did share it on a panel before, where there was an issue with my husband and myself. And I'm the type of person, when something happens, I believe that we should, right at that moment, talk it through. We need to deal with this right now. I like to trash things out, right? Right at that very moment. So my husband would be like, Tonette, I don't want to talk about this anymore. We'll talk about this later. I love you. Bye bye. Right? And I'm like, human, because I'm like, I need him to understand. He needs to get this. And that's just me. Eh? But we need to realize you can't solve anything when both of you are upset. Somebody has to be like, hey, let's just take a step back and then we're going to come back to this. Because as Anessa said, nothing can be solved when both of you are upset and angry. And this goes across the board, not only within relationships, as in male and female relationships, but friendships and everything. Nothing can be done when both of you are upset. You need to take some time away and then you come back to sit and talk about whatever the situation is. It is so
Thank you.
important.
I am Kalik. What's happening? You ready to speak on the matter? Go right ahead.
Well, Casey and I decided that we would answer for each other. So I'd say how she responds when she's upset, and she'll say how I respond. I don't want to be biased for myself, right? When Casey is upset with me, which is quite often because I'm troublesome. Oh yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know. She gets quiet, eh? And she's now learning. It's far better now than it was then, but she's now learning how to use her words, because before Kezia wouldn't express herself through her words very well. So then that's why she would get quiet, because she doesn't want to say something that she would regret. So what she would do is that she would take her phone and she would type it out and text it and then process it properly and then say it to me. Or she would just send me the text so I can get it, because then she has time to edit and put her words in a certain type of way when she's boiling, and then leave it and then look back at it to refine it. All of that she has to do when she's upset with me. Now, I think what she does is that she takes her time to respond. She thinks, as upset as she is, she tells me, babe, just give me some time and then I'll talk to you. Or if she feels that she can talk now, if she's not that upset, I didn't like when whatever ting. So now she's using her words. She's learning how to do it. It doesn't mean that she has totally eradicated the texting thing, because that works for her. But now she realizes that she needs to verbalize things. So then she has been working on it, and that's what I like. When we have a disagreement, we always sit down and say, okay, how can we eliminate toxic communication traits that we have that aren't the healthiest thing to do? Yeah, and for the past year or so, she's been working on it, and she's come far away, praise God.
For Kadikti too. This
Mhm.
man issue at hand. And he's always been a good communicator and wants to express himself really well. Generally. And so he's mad. He gets angry at me, upset at me. um, he'd he'd get a little distant at first, and then that was before he came out a bit strong to me. Now I'm somebody, I'm really cool and chill, and I don't like being spoken to in
Strong
a
aggressive.
strong manner, right? And I think that's one of the things that we had to understand about each other. When he expresses certain things, he expresses it in a passionate way. So to me, it comes across really strong. When he would have expressed it to me in that way, I would have told him and get a little bit defensive because it made me feel kind of attacked, you know. And so that's one of the things that he would have worked on as well over the past year. Um, right now, and he wants to take it with you, express it in a more gentle manner than what he gets to me. Um, and he will feel that acceptance as well. That they have certain times when I don't want to discuss it right now. So let me just take some time, and then afterwards we'll discuss it. And so that one's still in the process of him accepting it. But yeah, it's been there.
All right. Thanks, Kizzy. I know Kadika, so yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And just just piggybacking on what Kezia said as well. One thing that I didn't mention is the tone at which you speak. We need to be so careful.
Yeah.
Like me speaking from experience, sometimes when you're having a discussion or a disagreement, sometimes I know myself, I have a tendency to raise my voice. And with my husband, that is something that would just turn him off. So that is something that I have had to work on, my tone. And sometimes I am not even conscious that I'm actually doing it. Honestly, we really need to do a lot of introspection when it comes to the way we communicate, and especially the way how we handle disagreements. So one of the major things that is important for us to remember and to look at is to watch our tone. We might be trying to communicate something and we might not even be aware that, hey, Tonette, you're not sounding too right. A perfect example of that would be you're in a back and forth with someone and you send a voice note. Sometimes it's important. Just try listen to that voice note, and you'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize I was sounding this harsh." Well, now WhatsApp has the effect or the function where you can delete. So you can delete the message and calm yourself down and send another one. That's just a perfect example. So it's important for us to really watch our tones.
Thank you so much. So we have Okol and Duel remaining, and then I noticed Ms. Ramsey came to the stream also. So go Okolo or Daniel, whichever one of you will go first.
All right, there we go. So for me, when I'm upset, um, I usually, well, the truth is, in any situation, I prefer, like Kenneth said, to deal with it immediately, right? And so for me, when I get upset, the way I communicate, well, right away, my tone changes, right? So it starts being like this even tone, and it's raised, right? And so that's one thing that happens with me, right? Now, however, there are times when I do realize that what, now is not the best time to deal with whatever. Right now is not the best time to be communicating, right? And I'm actually gonna share well, not what I do, but while we were counseling, we were given the task to interview couples who would have been married, I think, for a certain amount of years. I think it was 25 or more, right? And one guy said that, well, this is in an argument, right? Or when his wife is trying to deal with an issue, what he does is that while she is speaking, he would drink a glass of water and hold that water in his mouth. So what that does is that it prevents him from replying while she is speaking. All right. And I thought that was a very good strategy to deal with, when you're upset and when you're having let's say maybe a heated argument, so to say. Right. And so for me, as I mentioned, my tone is raised, but yet still, I usually would take a deep breath, and even though I raise my tone, the words that I say are not well. I think they're not hurtful words.
I'm smiling here because, as you know, when Duel you're talking there, and all I'm thinking about, I'm seeing Joshan in my head. I mean, all of us know we have this kind of, we have our heated part of us, and so I'm just seeing Joshan in my head because Duel, for the years I've known you, I know you were angry, maybe you were upset maybe 2 times that I was wrong, that I knew for sure that he was annoyed over something. And, I said to her, what did you do to that guy? You may not know this, but I said to her, wait, what nonsense you did? Because it's not usual to see you upset or to hear you, speak in a certain way. But I'm just seeing my friend. I know she's listening in. Jay, please don't get Duel upset. But yeah, but I love I love the tips that you would have shared there. Yes, Madam Sister-in-law Jamesi. So I'm gonna invite. So we're gonna take Okolo at this point in time, and then I'm gonna ask Ms. Ramsey to speak.
All right, I'm having some internet issues at the moment. How would I respond? Well, to be honest, Vicky knows how I stay. I would normally just tell you as it is. I mean, as long as I'm telling you the truth, then I'm okay with that. If somebody opens their mouth at me, man, I would open back mine at you. Everybody kind of testify to that. But over the past 2 months, something that I've learned to do is just walk away. Because I can remember my cousin and I, we had a heated argument, and he was there opening his mouth and he was carrying on, and I was like, breathe and count to 10, breathe and count to 10. And I, walked away from the situation, and he ended up ceased his ranting and his raging. So I've learned that silence is uh, a very big way of getting rid of heated arguments. So I would try that very often. So that's how I would handle things as of now when I have any heated arguments with anybody.
Thank you, Okolo. Ramsey? Zion, if you're there, you can go ahead.
One second. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm also having some internet issues. I don't know where now with G20 today. Anyhow, I somehow believe that Okolo and I have to be some sort of sisters or something along the line. Because to be honest, that's me. However, it's been a while now. I prefer to be silent in situations. If I get angry, especially at my husband, because I usually tell people he has the ability to move me from 0 to trillions in seconds. He has that ability. So because I know he gets me angry like that so quickly, I easily sit, shut my mouth, pray to Jesus, and either pick up a book, do something that will distract me from him. But before the end of the day, we try to sort that issue out, because we have this little rule is that we should not sleep without solving an issue, because no one who know what tomorrow holds. So we try to deal with that issue and not go to bed like that, because going to bed like that, God forbid, if someone should not wake up, we would say, if I didn't know, or if I could, or I should, or whatever. So we try to do something. Spoken cannot be repeated.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Zion, for sharing that. And as I am as I'm listening to individuals, I recognize. Well, I handle my when I'm annoyed differently. I've learned since I came to USC. One thing that sometimes gets me really annoyed. I don't ever, at any point in time, and I don't know where I got it from, but the moment you see you embarrass me publicly, I don't care your position of authority, don't embarrass me publicly. And there's a natural instinct within me to react. And it's like, people will say you have plaster for every sore. And I don't know these
Mhm.
things from, where I come up with these things from, but it's like the natural inclination is just to react. And I remember one
Mhm.
lecturer, he told me something. And I was like, other persons were there. I can't remember what he said to me. And I felt like, no, you should not have said that to me. And I responded to him right away. And of course, there were some other persons there. And one of the ladies said, Shabik, you said that. And I'm like, I don't like telling me, don't embarrass me in front of people. Don't ever do it. Even though we were not in a classroom setting, I said, don't ever do it. I don't like it. And it was like until after he spoke to me, I mean, it was not anything bad for me to hold any grievance or anything. But afterwards, I told him, I said, listen, don't ever do that. Don't tell me anything in public and expected me not to react. Right. So, but I use that example to say it's not necessarily a good thing, but generally speaking, in relationships, sometimes it end up happening. Somebody says something, and the fastest thing the other party does is respond. And when you respond, you get yourself into trouble. You say things you're not supposed to say, and all of those things. So we have to be very, very careful with that. All right, so I noticed we don't have any more questions coming from the audience, but John here would have given a very important and a wonderful comment before we take our closing remarks to the program today. He says, "Get out of your head, be willing to compromise if it will engender peace and build in the relationship. Find a calming mechanism that will work for you. It's different for everybody. Example, of course, some persons would have mentioned it counting from 1 to 10, or listing animals in your head. That's a new one. I've never heard about that one. Listing animals in your head. But when you're calm, you can more effectively communicate. Thank you, John, for your comment there. And I just want us to our closing questions. I just want us to talk about. Well, we would have been dealing with that, but I just want to take a closing remark from each one of you, providing the audience. I'm just going to appeal to you this once. If you have any other question, because it's way beyond time, but if you have any other question that you want us to address, please speak now or forever hold your peace on this particular topic. But I just want you to give us a closing remark on this entire the topic of communication issues in relationship, common errors made. If there's anything else that you think we should have touched on, we didn't really mention, or something else that comes to your mind, I just want to give each one of the panelists the opportunity to give their closing remark at this point in time. Anyone can begin.
Okay, we will begin. We didn't get to touch on the aspect of the advantages of good communication, and we listed a few. And we just want to end by listing these few advantages so you can encourage individuals to educate yourself on how to effectively communicate. One thing that Kezia said is that sometimes we have all of these tools in effective communication, but our problem is applying them, the application of them. And so as we go forward, we want to encourage you to apply them. Ask God for the strength to apply them, and also to take away all those toxic negative attributes of communication that we have that aren't so good. Don't just say, oh, that's how I stay, a thing like that. Always grow. Always want to be in a situation where you grow. Advantages of good communication. It brings about security. Casey mentioned this one, emotionally, mentally, etc. When you have good communication with somebody, we're speaking in the context of relationship, marriage, and whatnot. It brings about that level of security. It also encourages a smoother living environment. Casey communicates something to me, and I know have a better understanding of her. I will not say certain things that causes us we're living together to have a smoother sailing living environment with each other. Um, it causes a deeper understanding of each other. So then again, we don't assume things about each other. We know things about each other, and we have a deeper understanding of each other. A deep about differences and we have a better understanding of a deeper level of happiness and purpose. Being able to see what you feel and what you think, being understood, and something is done about it, it causes you to have a deeper level of fulfillment. And these are the advantages that we would put together for effective or good communication.
Thank you so much. Kezia, any closing word from you?
That was and the two shall become one, so that was combined.
I love that. Take wing, girlfriend. Yes, who will be next?
Shabiki, another thing, what I would like to say, in any relationship, and I'm coming from the dating perspective, stop making assumptions in any relationship. Stop making assumptions as to, because, and this would happen more so in a situation, especially you are like in distant relationship. You like Connect said, your communication game got to be on point when you're in a distant relationship. And I think that this is how we get the thing wrong. This is how we become so defensive when we start to put up these assumptions about and these other superlatives, right? So we got to be careful what we're telling other people. And you start saying like, oh, you always like this, you always doing that and like that, right? So more like stop making assumptions and just be clear to the person and ask them what is the problem instead of making your own judgment of the situation. Another thing is don't undermine a situation, right? I saw a meme the other day, right? um the woman is wrong, but she said though, she apologized to him in her head, and if he didn't hear, that's his problem, right? And I had to laugh, but I mean, at the same time, it's a serious situation, right? At times, we want the guy, right, to assume to know the problem, right? We gotta know there are some things like some motions that we would like how she would behave that would tell that, oh, you do something wrong, right? But at the same time, you can't want the guy to guess what he did wrong, and plus at the end of the day he has to figure out what he did. You have to bring up situation. If something is bothering you, bring it up and talk about it, right? And that is the only way you're going to know what's going on. Communication is not a guessing game. Language is not a guessing game. It's like the example what the guy brought up before. If I'm speaking English and my wife is speaking Spanish, how am I going to guess how to say what in Spanish? Am I going to guess what how to say how to eat in Spanish? No, you have to ask, right? If something is bothering you, you bring it up. So for me, I think those are two critical things, especially in any relationship, to stop making assumptions. And if something is bothering you, talk about it. And it builds teamwork. It helps us to be more result oriented when we bring up these things as well. And we are more productive together because the marriage is a team. The relationship is a team, and we have to work together to make results.
Yes, Danielle. When you get married, counsel on the way. Anessa.
The final thing I would like to comment on, I think also in long distance relationship, what you have to realize is that one day you would be living with this very person and you would still have a job and you would still have other things to do. And so if you're not making your relationship a priority at the moment and the stage that it is, you will never make it. You would always put everything else in front of that. So it is vital, not just in physical, when persons your spouse is with you in physical space, but in the case of a long distance relationship, you must be able to still communicate with that person, because one day you would be living together and you would still be having those tons of things to do. So always make your relationship a priority above everything other else. The next thing is that you must work in order to keep your relationship, the fire, the blaze, whatever it is that keeps your relationship growing, glowing, and being productive. You must be able to work on that. It doesn't just happen. If you see people publicly enjoying their relationship and privately enjoying their relationship, it is because these people are putting in the work that is necessary in order to cultivate a relationship that is positive. It doesn't mean that they're not fighting in terms of like having disagreements and all of that, but it's just that they would have developed ways and taken their relationship so seriously that they can resolve conflicts in appropriate manner, so that even if somebody's upset and is disagreeing and all of that, you can still come together at the end of the day and still be in a relationship bond. So you must be able to put in the work to keep your relationship alive. So those are two things that I would like to leave with the audience today.
Thank you, Anessa.
All right, so I will say that communication is very vital in keeping a relationship going, right? For your relationship to grow, whether it's a marriage, whatever, boyfriend, girlfriend, or even a friendship, whatever the case might be, right? You need to communicate and communicate effectively, right? When you communicate effectively, it helps to reduce issues. It helps you to understand one another, right? And one thing I would say is that, well, backing up on what Daniel said in terms of assumptions, right? In terms of assumptions in communication, right? Don't just assume that you understand what people say or what the person would have said in a particular situation. You know, sometimes it's good to seek a clarification, you know. So even if you think you really understand, you know, ask, is this what you're really saying? Because this is what I am getting from what you're saying. Is that it? And you know, that will help to clear up a lot of issues. All right. So that's just my 2 cents at the end.
Thank you very much, Duel. Tonette, before you go, I wanna, and that is why we have to be very careful. You see this texting that many times get misunderstood. Folks, if we have things to discuss, it is preferably you call or meet that person face to face, because text messages can sometimes send totally different messages. What you assume, because sometimes when I read a text message, I'm like, what? This is what the person is saying? Right away, I have to call and I'm like, okay, I just read your message. What are you saying there? But when the person explains something totally what I understood that message to be, because many times we assume, Anessa, so when we read a message, we are putting in the tone, the person saying everything in our head. The person sound angry, message.
Yeah.
And sometimes the person is not angry, right? But because the way in which we are reading it, and that's why we have to be very, very careful, folks. When it comes to serious things, be very, very careful. Yes, you may see, and of course, we know in terms of our tone, that is it. Yeah, go ahead, Duel, before we take to it, Tonette.
Yeah, as you said it, I just remembered something that I had read a while ago. In that communication is more than just verbal, right? There are also non-verbal aspects to it, right? And so as you mentioned there with the text, right? When you send a text to someone, they aren't hearing your tone of voice, they aren't seeing your facial expression and so on as you send it. So they have to assume, you know, what exactly you mean, right? And so communicating face to face is the best method of communication, because then you hear the words, you hear the tone of voice, you see the body language if there are gestures with it, also facial expression, right? And so we know in these modern times you have WhatsApp and video calling and what's not, right? But the best way to communicate is face to face.
Thank you for that additional addition, Duel. Tonette.
Yes. Just my few words would be, again, as almost everyone stated, effective communication takes work, and we really have to be deliberate while we work on becoming better communicators. And remember as well, Communication is understanding, not determining who is right. Your relationship will thrive if your priority is understanding the other
Valid.
person.
Valid submission. Thank you, Tonette. And even before I take Okolo last response, somebody had mentioned this earlier, sometime in the program, in terms of, I mean, with getting your response right away. One of the things I personally hate is if somebody have a problem with me and say, Shibiki, you know what? I have an issue with you, but we're gonna talk about it later. Don't ever do me that. Don't put me like that. Like one of my friends messaged me one day. He said, Shibiki, I need to talk to you about something. Whatever. And in my mind, I got nervous. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? What is it? I'm like, hey, I can't take that. Give me a synopsis. We'll talk about this later, but I need a synopsis. So when he sent the synopsis, it's preparing my mind, hey, this is what we have to discuss. Right? So trust me, we got to be very, very, everybody deal with it differently. And again, understanding people will determine that. For me, don't come to me and just give me something. If you're ready to talk to me about a matter, you realize we have an issue on the table, let's talk about it right away. Don't raise it to me, especially if I was not aware of it, and then leave me like that and say you're going to come back to it. It bothers me a whole lot, and I will stress over that. Right? So everybody will react differently. So get to know your partner effectively. Okolo.
Well, my sentence is going to be very short. It's simply remember that listeners focus on the content of the conversation. So if you're going to convey or you're going to communicate with somebody, ensure that the content of what you're going to say to the individual, it is in a tone that is, what should I say, reaching, and it's not in any way trying to offend the other individual. So let's focus on our content of communication.
Thank you so much. So just I'm going to ask all my panelists, turn your cameras on at this point in time, even as we close. I just want to say really and truly thank you for being here today. To my audience, you were such a wonderful audience. Your comments and your support, whether you're viewing on YouTube or you're viewing here on Facebook, thanks a lot. Please don't forget, for those who are viewing on YouTube, or even if you're a Facebook fan of this program, you can subscribe to the program, to my YouTube channel, Issues in Focus with Shibiki Vivals, and you will see almost all of our programs there. I have about 3 programs to upload. That was before we went live, but almost all of the programs are there. You can sit and you can watch at your convenience. You may have a friend or friends, particular topic may be able to help them. Please send it to them. And I want you guys, don't forget, if you have commendations, if you have comments on how we can improve, feel free to private message me, and I'll work my best to see how we can work to make this program better. And it was last night, a young woman messaged me and she said, I really enjoyed one of your programs. And I'm like, which one of them? I was trying to decipher. And then she said, oh, the one that you did on Friday. It really touched me. And for me, as I listened to her and we had a conversation, first time I'm meeting her, I don't know anything about her. Sometimes people don't realize how much help people need. And I'm saying this to my panelists and also to the viewing audience. You may be gifted in a particular arena. Don't be afraid to share your giftedness to someone else. It may be able to help them along the journey. For all of our married folks, you may have single friends, or you may have other friends who are married also, and they're going through their issues. If you see things that that this friend can listen to you, share a Bible verse, share a counsel, share something with them to help them so that they can enjoy and enjoy a life that perhaps you're enjoying, and moreover to help them through this journey. And as I have not forgotten you, so you're gonna sing your piece of song to close us, and then I'm gonna ask Pastor Kadik Tito. He's gonna close us in prayers. And as I tell you, don't forget things like that, Don't tell me now our internet decide to act up upon us. What sort of satanic thing is that? All right, so I think Anessa may have escaped this one. Anyway, Kadik, you can close us in prayer. So even if after the prayer she comes on back, we're gonna still take her song because it's just to hear her voice. So go right ahead, Kadik.
No problem. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we are so very grateful that we were able to have this talk today. We are so very grateful that you would have moved Shibiki to even have such a platform where we can talk about these topics and be so open to share so that others can be educated, so that we ourselves can be educated and grow as young Christians, young and older Christians. I pray now that this platform may continue to blossom, may continue to reach souls. And I pray that this session that we would have had this afternoon may have educated and helped someone to grow in some regard so that we can have a better communication system amongst us as your people. Thank you so much, and be with the remainder of us for the remainder of this evening. In your son's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. So Anessa has been whether logged out directly, indirectly, I don't know, but oh, but let me just say thank you, and to my audience once again, thank you so much for your support. And I know Pastor Dixon, I want to mention this that Pastor Dixon he's created this new logo that I have here, Issues in Focus. And the logo that you will see in your letters, your official letters I've been sending to you, that was created by my friend Ewan Isaac. So I'm happy that I have friends who have been supporting me. And to the audience, once again, thank you for your support. And I pray for your continued support. So God bless you all. And I'm going to see you on Friday, in which we're going to deal with another very touchy topic. Issues in Focus. So I just received a message from Anessa saying her phone died and she can't reconnect. That's all right, Anessa. You would have escaped this time. It's just interesting how things worked out for you, right? But nevertheless, and for anybody who may want to give any form of donation to the program, feel free. You can do that. So God bless you all. Enjoy your evening, guys, and so long.